Let's take a look at the Corsair Carbide Series Air 540 high airflow case. High airflow mid-tower case. It's a mid-tower, but it's double wide. That's because all the components go on one side, and then everything else goes on the other, like your SSD. Several of those go on the other side. Your power supply. It's very compartmentalized, and there's a lot you can do with it. And you can fit a lot into this. So this may be good for someone who wants to put it up on their desk. They've got some girth on their desk, but sometimes the long cases just don't fit in a lot of different places. So this is going to fit in a place where the big case might not, but it's still big and can hold a lot. So I guess let's go ahead and first off go through the front, and you can easily take this entire thing apart. There's only like 2 or 3 screws holding everything together, then it's just mostly latches and snaps and very easy to take apart. So looking at the front here, we have 2 5 1/4 bays, and we also have a power reset. There's an LED light there, so you can see whatever the LED is going to tell you.
I'm not sure if you can see it, but the 5 1/4 inch bays are actually turned sideways.
Yeah, they are. That's very important to mention that. Because some people are going to want to put a screen in this, like a dual 5 1/4 base screen. You'll have to get one that supports vertical resolutions, and a lot of them do not. So just keep that in mind. And so a lot of people think you're gonna go run out and grab one and then make it vertical, but it may or may not work. Just make sure that the one you get does support vertical resolutions. Other than that, you'll have side loading CD-ROM or whatever you put in there.
Yeah, the first thing that stood out about this thing is it's got 2 3.5 inch bays in the bottom, and they're hot swap, so that you can pop the side off and slide out because it's a connector. But those are the only 2 3.5 inch bays in this case.
Yeah, the rest is all it's going to be 2.5 inch, so you can use laptop hard drives if you need more space, or laptop-sized mechanical hard drives. But it's all going to be about SSD, and those are going to go right behind the motherboard, almost right behind where the CPU goes. Now you'll also notice that in the front we have sort of a mesh. It's like almost a honeycomb design down the front. I think it looks interesting, and everything's textured. It has like almost a rubberized texture. I don't want to say that it's exactly rubberized, but it's all steel and plastic, the entire construction, but it has a really nice feel to it, and it doesn't pick up fingerprints like some of the glossier models, but you can see fingerprints, especially if you have oily hands out there. Wipe your hands after you eat them potato chips. Directly behind that, there is a dust filter, and we have 2 intake fans, and they're large 140 millimeter intake fans. This is the Corsair AF140L. They're based upon the AF140, moving 67.8 cubic feet per minute, and the RPM on those is 1150. And they're only 24 decibels loud. That's whisper quiet. And if they're only running at like, half, like a lot of times if you're just like chilling, it's going to be really quiet. One of the things that worried me about this was the noise, because it's not really sealed off. It's not really made for sound dampening. It's made for airflow. But the entire top is just like, air coming and going, so you are going to get some dust inside here. There's no filters on the top. There's a filter right here in the front, and it's a magnetic filter, so it easily comes off if you want to clean it, but that's really one of the only filters on this case. We have a ginormous window on the side. It's like almost the entire side here, so you can look right in there at all your components. And we have another 140 millimeter fan right here in the back as an exhaust, so it's just going to create a wind tunnel over your components right there. So the distance from front to back is not that great, so going from here to here is not going to be that big a deal. And also, there's not a lot of hard drive cages and junk in the front that's going to inhibit the airflow. It's just flying straight through. As far as the supported motherboards, it'll support just about everything. ATX, eATX, micro ATX, and also mini ITX. It'd be kind of funny putting a mini ITX in this, but you can do it if you want to. The dimensions of the unit are 415 millimeters by 332 millimeters by 458 millimeters. Not quite a cube, but more cubular than most. Am I allowed to say the word cubular?
Cubular will be fine.
Cubular.
It reminds me of the old HP Net Server LH3 because it's a good form factor. I mean, they made a pretty efficient use of space. The only wasted space we could find is above the 2.5 inch bays on the other side in the back, but it's probably for airflow.
Just beneath the 2.5 inch bays, which there are 4 that kind of snap together like Legos. The whole entire thing pops off. It's a little plastic design, and they all snap off like Legos. And there's no direct fan that's going to be hitting that. And there's not anywhere to hook up a fan that's going to be hitting that. So if there's a ton of stuff going on, they might get warm. They don't get as warm as like a standard mechanical hard drive. But if you do have 2.5 inch mechanical hard drives in there, it would worry me just a little bit. But there is some ventilation in the back. The power supply is going to go beneath that. It's going to suck air in, and then the left, or I guess the side panel that's on the back there, there's a honeycomb design vent just where the air is going to be blown out. So it'll suck in from the back, and the power supply will blow the air out the back, or out the side.
Out the side, yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty nice. This is probably going to be the easiest case that you'll ever work with as far as cable routing goes, because there's just so much room over there. There's so much room for activities. Just a ridiculous amount of room.
And there are grommets everywhere.
Yeah, there are rubber grommets all over the place. Double rubber grommets on the side, so you can have stuff going crazy. If you have a larger, like an ATX motherboard, just grommets right out your grommet. All right, let's talk about all the different fans you can fit into this. If you wanted to switch to 120 millimeter fans, you can fit 6 of those in here. You can fit 5 140 millimeter fans, and that's probably what I would do. Or you can go crazy with the radiators. Now up here on top, you can install a 240 or a 280 millimeter radiator. Now get this, in the front, you can install a 240, 280, or a 360 millimeter radiator.
Although, if you do have an external pump, there's not a grommet on the back to route your tubing. But the grill for the back fan is removable.
We have 8 expansion slots in the back. So more expansivity than normal.
You could run it with one of those motherboards that does like 4-way SLI, and the bottom slot hangs off the bottom of the motherboard. So you could have 4 dual height cards.
Also, let's take a look at the bottom. Now, as you notice here on the bottom, beneath the hard drives, there's just air. I mean, just holes there. So I guess the bottom of the hard drives are going to get some dust from the floor if you put this on the ground. I would recommend putting this on a table because of this. I mean, dust isn't going to kill things as long as you keep it nice and cool, but yeah, it's just holes. And if you do not have a hard drives there, it's just holes, man. I don't know what else to say. I mean, also we do have some nice rubber feet here. They're like nice and textured and rubber. It's not going to scratch your wooden desk or your wood floors or your wooden floors. Especially once you get this thing loaded up with components, it'll be just fine. All in all, I really like the hot swap bays in the front. I like the airflow options. I like the size of this, and it's a really interesting idea to compartmentalize it like this. Like to take the cages out of the front and put them in a different compartment beside everything. It's a really interesting idea, and it will help with the airflow. You've got like an air chamber over here. Can we call it a chamber? Do they use that? Yes, they use chamber in their marketing stuff. I wasn't looking at that, and I came up with chamber on my own. So
you would be hard pressed to find a medium tower case that is less tall, just because they put the power supply and everything on the other side.
Oh, speaking of oversized, one more thing I want to mention. It will take oversized power supplies, and the power supplies are raised off the bottom. There's like some like little standoffs. You can adjust where the standoffs go, so if the power supply is extra long, you can slide back the standoff, and it'll balance on that instead. So that's really handy as well. So that's the Corsair Carbide Series Air 540. Very interesting case. I like what's going on here. If you guys have any questions, head over to the forum. There's a link somewhere in the description. If not, if I don't put it on the screen, because sometimes I forget it's in the description, and you guys should also subscribe. See you next time.
You got it better the other times.
No, I did it like almost perfectly when we weren't recording.
Don't hit that side. There you go.